Hello everyone, it's me Jenny, and I was struggling with the subject for today's video rather than just doing another update, and I was thinking about things I'm actually excited for and looking forward to, and I realised that I haven't actually talked about the fact that I am going to be running a game. Not sure yet on the date, but my sister has requested that I run a D&D game for her friends who are interested in RPGing but have never done it before, never D&D or never any sort of RPGs. And I'm really excited about this and really terrified. And not only is this a group of new players, which, you know, usually I can deal with, but this is a group of new players who want to potentially do a full day's worth of gaming, and it is up to 7 players. So I'm relatively confident when it comes to running one-shots. Like, I can come up with the concept, I can work with it. As long as there's 1 or 2 other players that help do character sheets and setup and stuff, I'm contented with that. But usually the maximum length of a one-shot that I've done is about 3 hours at a time. There was a 4-parter I did a while ago, so that was a total of 12 hours, but that was over the total of 4 weeks. So doing the potential of, you know, a 5 to 7 hour long session with 7 newbie players is really exciting and really terrifying. So I'm trying to think a lot about, I sent out a questionnaire to them, so I'll be constructing their character sheets because I don't want to get too bogged down in the character creation, because these guys are new people, and a lot of the playing factor of D&D comes from the intimidation factor of constructing the character sheets. I remember the first time I started to construct my character sheet and I was sat watching these guys who had started to play because I was joining a pre-existing game as part of one of the club games. And I remember looking at the book, having read it, and being like, I feel like crying. I don't know what I'm doing. What am I meant to be doing? Which numbers count as what? Have I missed a number? I've missed a point here. For some reason my stats are completely wrong. They don't make sense. Everything's awful. And of course the DM saw me struggling and helped me out a bit. But I don't want to bog down too much of the experience in that kind of what can be a really positive experience, creating characters, discussing what you want with them. I think because these guys, because there's a lot of them, because they're new players, I'm going to be constructing the character sheets in advance. So I sent out a character sheet questionnaire, so that's got, you know, I split down the classes instead of doing the full paladin, fighter, rogue, ranger, etc. I split down the classes into fighter, spell user, cleric, which I think should be a class in its own right, just as a primary healer. I mean, that could also be druid or bard, but I will construct that around the character preferences. So I kind of separated those out so I would know who would be basically my tanks and up close people, my rogues, you know, distance and sneaky, my magic users, and my supports. So I split those ones up. I put down all of the character classes, all of the character races, because that's just personal preference. I don't think any of these people who are playing this game have ever heard of a tiefling before, so I had to put a little description of what a tiefling was. So I'll be interested to see if anyone can pick that. And then I also put in the beginning, like, just tell me what you want. Like, if you think of a character you want to play, tell me what you want. And I think I use, like, John McClane, who looks like Legolas, or you know, a swamp witch that heals wounds with bark and fungus, or, you know, that crazy character from that one film. Trying to use pop culture references, so I'm hoping I'll get a couple of ideas back from that, because I know at least 1 or 2 of them were like, I would have this accent. So I'm hoping that will also trigger a character idea. And then I very much summarised the backgrounds of the characters in a couple of other questions, like people you love, hate, etc., people you don't like, objects you hate, that sort of thing. So hopefully I'll get enough information back, and then I'll construct the character sheets, and then hopefully follow up with emails. And there's a lot of other things that I want to do in advance. Like, I think probably what I'll do is I'll bring separate cardboard boxes, which I can then, like, write a little thing saying D10, D12, D6, D4, which, you know, a lot of these guys are very, very smart people. They're my sister's friends, and she's very smart, and her friends are all very, very smart and very well educated. But, you know, it just helps kind of get over that first hurdle of, what do you mean D6? What do you mean, if I can just be like, the box that says D6. And I'm working on trying to word my pre-ramble, my kind of DM starter conversation, to make it as unterrifying as possible. And yeah, I think I'm going to do a lot of tricks and trades to make sure that these guys they're not going to be in any real danger. I'm going to hopefully make them feel like they're in danger, but they're not actually going to be in real danger. They're going to have, I'm going to give them probably their introduction character. An NPC that will kind of set them on their mission will have some sort of sending spell, so if they really cock up, they can either ask for help, or she might just appear, or he might just appear, and be like, hey dudes, why not go left? Maybe? I'm thinking of maybe doing some sort of, there'll be potions hidden around, so if any of them are desperate, one of the things I do, and I know this isn't common practice, but one of the things I do with particularly new players or players that, because I'm not very good, personally, this is one of my faults, and it's one of the things I'm not very good at working on because I don't DM often enough, but I'm not very good at naturally balancing combat. I either make it quite easy, so a lot of players feel like they're not being challenged, or I make it too challenging and I TPK. And that's entirely my fault. So I do things like having a luck die, which is basically DM's inspiration die. So basically I'm probably going to give them all inspiration at the beginning, so they can basically ask for help at any point or re-roll at any point once. And then I'm also going to give them a luck die, which is going to be probably a D12, and that's just going to be basically if they roll well, then I will give them something. That's kind of, if they roll well, they spot out the corner of their eye something glinting that's a health potion, or they're fighting a flame monster and they notice there's a trickling in the wall, and then they can maybe use something to bash it down and create a gout of water or something creative that maybe, like, if they've entered an environment and haven't rolled well on the perception checks, maybe they can see something they haven't seen before, without me having to worry about their actual proficiency level. And I know that's not a standard D&D DM practice, but I found it to be very useful when either I'm not very good at balancing, or new players haven't quite got the gist of good actions. I'm also going to put in a lot of stuff in my pre-ramble about being careful with spell usage, and exhaustion, and that sort of thing. I feel like one of the things I do with one-shots particularly is I'll give spellcasters, when we take a break, which is usually timed, if I can write a story well enough, timed around the time when they would want to have a short rest, I usually give spell playing characters 2 spells back, 2 first level spells, during a short rest, which again, not common practice, but it's very useful when you're playing a short game, so characters don't feel like they're too much holding back. They feel like they can do cool things without feeling like they're constantly being gutted of power, or ultimately, or the opposite version, which is just cantrip. They can actually feel like they can do cool stuff. So that's something else that I probably do. And as I said, health potions dotted around. I think I'll probably, there's lots of things that I want to try. One of the things I put at the bottom of the sheet, which is going to be the real telling factor, is I put a list of genres. Because I'm not going to write the story until I know what sort of genres they want. So high fantasy, heist, escape room, horror, those sort of things. I can't remember the exact list. But I think that'll be really interesting to see what people most want to play, and that way you can tailor the story to how they want to play. And there'll be things that hopefully will be kind of patterned between all of them, like it's always good to have a riddle. I quite like riddles, particularly the satisfaction you get when players crack it. So I'll probably put in at least one riddle depending on what genre they go with. That depends on what type of riddle, but there'll probably be a riddle. There'll probably be some sort of skill check based escape at some point where it's a bit timed and a bit more, everyone rolls. There will be combat. I do try and keep combat minimal. I'm not very good at, pen and paper type combat. I tend to do more combat of the mind, which again will be difficult with new players, so I'm going to try and keep the combat quite low, but then I will have to probably sketch up some scenes, and because there's so many players, I will need to move the players around the board, which is something I don't usually do. It's not something that on the few tabletops I've run in real life, I have done some sort of sketchboard. I tend to like take little scraps of paper and write people's initials on it and move it around, but I do feel like I will have to do that for this one just to keep track of the number of players. One of the things my DM does, which I'm hoping to do as well, is I don't have a DM board. I never have. Usually what I do is I just prop up my player's handbook in front of my dice, but I think I will have to construct some sort of DM board, because one of the things he does that's really useful, or I might have to do some other technique that's really useful, which is to write down the player characters, and then he hangs them off the top of the board in order of the initiative. So I don't have to keep looking back at a sheet. It's very clear who's going when and why. And that's really useful, and that's useful for the players because they can see who's coming up next. They don't have to remember, oh, I'm behind so and so. So that's useful for me, it's useful for them. So I might try doing something like that, or maybe some sort of like vertical board where I can click people's names in order. So yeah, that'll be something that I want to do as well. And yeah, basically I'm excited. The main thing that's going to come into fruition is once I get the feedback, once I get the questionnaires back, is constructing the actual character sheets for each player, and making sure that we've got enough balance, hopefully, within the party. We'll see. If they're all fighters, it's going to be a bit tricky. But then I can throw in a paladin and a roguey fighter and a magic-y fighter and a cleric-y fighter. So hopefully that'll balance out. We'll see. I'm definitely going to put a bard in there if I can. I might not call it a bard because the reputation of bards is shockingly awful, even though they're actually one of the coolest class, if not the coolest class. But I digress. I'm probably going to put them between level 4 and level 6. That way they've got enough cool things going on, but hopefully it's not too overwhelming. And then it's going to be a matter of like filing people's spells, so I can give each person a kind of character pack. They've got their spells, they've got their backstory, they've got their character sheet. If they've got, you know, weapons or special abilities, they can have a little kind of keycard thing. It's going to be a lot of homework basically, but because it's not like running a one-shot for new players in a convention where it can be a bit more general and you all construct on the day and you're all kind of in it for the construction, with this particular group I want to see how much I can get prepped in advance in terms of the physical technical preparation, and then hopefully we can just have fun and play the game, and I won't get too exhausted and they'll all have fun. But yes, this is a very long video, but it's something that I'm excited about, and I was struggling for things to talk about, and I found something I can talk about, and I'm excited. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. It really does depend on what I get back on the questionnaires, what genre I'm playing in, what characters I get. My favourite thing is to trigger character interactions, which is a bit trickier with new players when they're not maybe necessarily natural in their characters, but we shall see. We shall see, and if it all goes tits up, I can turn it into a battle royale and we can all drink. So there we go. Thank you all for watching. Feel free to comment if you have any advice for any new players. I do watch Matthew Mercer and Satine Phoenix DM tips and tricks channel, so don't tweet me or message me with that, but any other advice you have, please put it down in the description. Anything you do as a player or as a DM that you think helps new players and helps keep it exciting and fresh, but also not too overwhelming. Any advice, I will take it. And in the meantime, thank you for watching. I'm going to really turn off this camera this time. See you all tomorrow for another video. I've got to go to bed. Thank you for watching. Bye guys.